So you guys have the handouts. So Jen and I have been talking. Oh my god. I'm just gonna let it go. So Jen and I have been talking a little bit about some of the, stuff that Josiah has been doing, and just in terms of like trying to figure out sort of what is the function behind a lot of that behavior that we've been seeing a little bit more of. So Jen and I have just been talking about, and you guys have the like PowerPoint here, that so the first thing that we would probably want to look at is the functional behavior assessment, and just trying to sort of think about like what is the possible function of that behavior, what's triggering it, and then also is there something we're doing in response to that behavior, like if he's throwing the toys to get attention, are we giving him attention and reinforcing that behavior? And then you have that motivational, what's the SA?
Assessment scale.
Oh, motivational assessment scale. And that's good for us to just get some like background information too. And then on the back of the PowerPoint, there's the ABC data sheet. And so what we'll do with that is we're going to try to take some data on when we see it happening and try to figure out, what happens just before we see a behavior, and then what happens immediately after we see the behavior. And then that way we can kind of, look through it and really try to figure out what is that function, so that we can really get to the root cause of what's going on. And, and we're really, I think, we can't be taking data all day long all the time. Like, I think to start, we should really just focus like just on centers. And so, because I think that's when we see the most of it. And that's less stress for us. I mean, we can't be taking data like all the time permanently. We need to like really focus on the time of the day that we're seeing it the most. So yeah. So do you guys have questions on that? Or you guys, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this before.
Have you guys done this before with like doing an antecedents of behavior or consequence chart?
I have in school.
Oh, you have in school, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the big things we talk about is that every behavior is observable.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we'll be like, he's acting naughty. Well, what is he doing? Like really defining that. He's throwing a car.
Uh-huh.
He's stomping his feet.
Running, he's whatever,
In response to whatnot.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of like what we see the behavior, and then we kind of think about like, okay, what was it just happened? Like somebody else ripped a toy out of his hand and he got mad, or what was it specifically that happened just before that behavior, before we saw it, and then like we said, like I have my back turned and I'm working with somebody else over here. He throws a car across the room. I come over to him and give him attention. So it's already just rewarded that, or whatever, So we just think about like what happened just before it happened, and then what happens right afterward that might be reinforcing the behavior that we don't want to reinforce.
And sometimes just thinking of it in those terms, that every behavior is observable and you have an antecedent consequence, takes the pressure off you. So you're not like, he's doing this to make me mad. It kind of makes it less, as Molly said before, less stressful. It's more like, okay, there's some function to this behavior. There's some motivation behind this behavior. Let's start first with those ABC charts and see what the antecedents were,
Right.
I mean.
Exactly.
I was telling Molly a little bit, I shared with her a story about a pack of cigarettes, but my dog peed in the house the other day. And I'm like, well, what were the antecedents, honey? And so like Scott and I were talking, my husband, I go, well, when was the last time we took her out? I was like, it had been hours. And I'm like, well, did she run around right before that? Oh, yeah, she was whining at me. Like, there were antecedents to her before she peed in the house.
Right.
And what were the consequences? She was chill after that.
Right.
But it just, I mean, I think that's why we
well, and
talked
you
about.
probably took her right out
Oh,
after she peed
and I
on the
pet her and I
floor.
took her for a walk.
Yeah, so she's like, oh, I got what I wanted, you know?
Yeah.
And not that, I mean, I don't think that she was peeing for attention.
No.
Clearly she's peeing, she should pee. but, I mean, it doesn't necessarily hurt that then she got what she wanted. She got to go outside.
It's kind of like this, I also saw something that, like, the guy was, every time his cat got on the counter, he took her, put her outside. So every time she wanted to get out.
Yeah, she went on the
did.
counter.
Exactly.
She got on the counter.
That's funny.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's really funny.
Well, and that's why too. I know over the years, and you guys have dealt with children like this before. Quite often, when you're doing like, I tell parents, when you start putting consequences in place for a child, if they're acting out and you ignore the behavior is going to escalate up. Because they've been getting what they want, they've been getting that toy, the candy, the whatever else they want right away, and all of a sudden you're going to start to ignore it. You've been reinforcing the behavior for so long, if you're going to ignore the behavior and give them a different consequence, it's typically going to escalate. So I think
Right, it gets
yeah.
worse before it gets better.
Yes, yes. So I think this, like, as Molly said, this has been something that's going on. You guys are maybe just looking at it from the antecedent behavior and consequence, and then getting back together, and you could
Well,
just.
and I think it's a good thing to look at too, because I think in my mind, I think I kind of understand what the antecedent is, but it could be something vastly different than what I actually thought it was. So it is good to kind of look at all these and like really try to not just make a guess, like really take some data.
So maybe we can get together next week one time for just a few minutes to kind of debrief this after you guys are done and kind of follow through.
Yep.
So I hope that helps. And anyways, if you think of anything else, any questions, I was like, Molly, I talked a lot about this. I'm expert.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Of course.